Hello, hello, and welcome to today's live version of Will You Give Me a Reading? Today is November 30th. We are at the edge of November, only one more month left uh before we are in 2023, if you can believe it or not. I still feel it's 2019. The pandemic took a couple of years off my life. I'm sure they did for you. So I'm glad you're here. I'm waiting for Chris Onareo to come in. He may be having some technical difficulties, so I'm just gonna chit chat and hopefully we will get him in here very, very soon. So today, this is the final live I'm going to do for the year. I am taking the month of December from doing any kind of scheduled work or client work, so I can start planning and strategizing for next year, and maybe try to take a little bit of a break. It's been a little crazy for me since the book has been released, but that's why I thought today would be really good around self care and talking about self care, both from a tarot perspective as well as a tarot reader perspective. If you're a pro reader, this will definitely resonate. I wrote a whole chapter about this in my book, Will You Give Me a Reading? Because it is so huge. It is called Self Care for Those That Are Not So Good at Self Care. Me, I am absolutely guilty of that. And a lot of tarot readers are. A lot of readers are um, just we give and give and give. We give, we rescue, we help, we support others, but we may have a hard time giving it back to ourselves. So that self care piece is critical for readers in particular. So I thought a really nice way to kind of kick off the self care would be to go through some cards and let tarot talk about self care. But before we do that, let me pop up. Uh, so I don't know why he's having a hard time. So I don't know if he's gonna be able to make it here on StreamYard. It looks like he's having some technical difficulties, but maybe he can come in live with the chat. So hopefully we can get him in here very soon. How is everybody? Everyone good? Everyone great? Everyone's quiet. I don't hear anyone talking. Let me see if I can get him to get in. I'm going to try to send him the link again. And then I'm also going to send him the instructions. But so I am deep into some stuff that is going to happen next year. I can tell you a little bit about what is currently on offer if you go to my website, jennamatlin.com. I am starting the monthly psychic galleries once again, starting in January. It'll be the last Friday of every month. So if you want to come in, you and 12 other friends, we're going to spend 2 hours where everybody gets a reading. And it's also a lot of really wonderful support and energy work in the round in the community. So if you're looking to do something a little more budget friendly, I'm going to have that on offer. You can sign up for it now. Hey guys. And then also I have started the readings that I did last year. They're now up for people to book, though I'm only doing 2 of them a week currently. And it's called Kitchen Sink Readings, where it is a huge confluence of what is your tree, your animal. We're going to do tea leaf readings. We are going to do the I Ching, dice divination, like at least 5 different oracle cards from 5 different oracle decks and systems. What else? And also a Lenormand or tarot reading, your choice. This is a 90-minute session, and it is like basically everything but the kitchen sink, which is why I call it the kitchen sink readings. And I'll be offering those in January and February, but I'm only doing a two of those a week on Fridays. So if that sounds like something you want to get in on, you want to head on over to my website, jennamatlin.com, and probably schedule it now. I've already got people scheduling for it. So those are going to definitely book out. So those are the two things that right now is already on offer for next year. I know that talking about self-care, it's super, super critical that especially if you're a pro reader, that you get some rest in December, because January is typically either the first or the second busiest month of the year for pro readers. Because what do? We look at the future, and what do people want to know about the future in January at the start of the new year? So it's really important for readers to not head into January fatigued because of all of the holidays, because then you're just going to get double slammed. And so January and February typically are really big months. March tends to be not as crazy, but then it kind of upticks again. Your mileage may vary with that. So we will definitely make sure that you are taking care of yourself. And he made it. Hello. Let me get you on. There we are. Let me add you. Hello.
Hi. Oh my
Hi.
gosh. I've never used this before and I read the instructions and it was like you should just click the link and because I had I had Google Chrome or whatever. So it took me through many different things. So I'm like I went back and I kept clicking and clicking and now it works. So I don't
Well, you're here. Great. I was like trying to get over there. I was like, here's the links again. I don't know. I don't know.
know. It's okay. I messed up with my ring light. I don't
Oh no. Well, you
but
just look really tan. You're
yeah.
in that Southern California life, I know. So I remember, because I'm from California originally, and then when I first moved to, uh, like my first year maybe on the East Coast, I was like,
Uh-huh.
"Oh my god, I am the whitest I have ever seen myself." And growing up in San Diego, even though I'm redheaded, I still could get a tan. And I remember as a child, like people's family members, cousins, and whatnot would come to San Diego for vacation. And I remember this thought as a child looking at them going, they look sick. They're so pale. Are they okay? Now I'm one of them. So what are you going to do?
There is kind of like that that's kind of like the mentality not that sick but like nature in nature, right? Like if you have some color it's like you're more attractive, right? So
But it is so regional. I remember when I lived in Asia, and pale is very
so,
in. So,
yeah,
everyone, all the women would be very covered, and all of us, white girls would be like, we need color, get color us. It's always the opposite, right? So
just like get that melanoma or
is that
something.
no, 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 dude. I am,
I know
I'm just
that's horrible, but it's like it's crazy because I mean, having lived in Miami, like now I feel pale. Also, I lived in Miami. I'm from Puerto Rico, so you
yeah,
get very tan. And when I look at pictures of when I was growing up, I was like, "Who's this kid? Who's that kid?" I'm like, "It's me," because I was like darker, because we're right there, like in the middle of the world,
right.
like in this, in
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Same
close to
for
the
me. I was
equator,
like, yeah.
like.
Oh, yeah, I was like I was really brown as a kid. I mean, I was just grew up in San Diego, just, like,
Mm,
always riding my bike everywhere, and didn't put no sunscreen on,
yeah,
But anyways,
yeah.
I'm glad you're here. I was just talking to the
Thank
people that are
you.
here live. We've got, Susan and Christina and Marion and some other people who, have not, indicated their presence in the chat, but, I wanted to talk about self-care. Oh, hey, Nicole. Hey. I wanted to talk about self-care because I just know at this time of year, like this is really December is really the crunch month for tarot readers, because like September, October, November for tarot readings is usually very intense because there's all these fall events, there's Halloween, there's holiday stuff. And then you if you're lucky, you can carve out a little bit of a break. But then January typically hits like a ton of bricks because everybody wants to know, what is my year going to be like? So this is a very special time where readers have to try to carve out some rest in order to be able to continue. And I know you are so busy. You are juggling all kinds of hats. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself actually? We got into it. And what you're up to, and yeah, give me your thoughts. What do you think?
So, for people that don't know me, I'm Onareo, Chris, for most people know me. I have two Instagram shows that I do a lot, which, well, I was doing them a lot. Now I have a full-time job, so I do them every ever so often. But I guess every couple of weeks I do a couple of them, which is Show Us Your Deck for deck creators, so either tarot oracle deck,
Show
oracle
show
decks,
us
etc.
your deck.
Yeah. And then also I do We're Booked, which you were my last no, I think you were my last guest, or maybe I had somebody else after you. No, I think you were the last. Yeah, I think you were my last guest, like maybe a week ago or week and a
That
half
was a
ago.
week, 2 weeks. I don't.
Yeah, I feel it's like difficult to keep track of time. And and there I speak to different authors within the tarot, divination, witchcraft community, occult, right? Well, occult community, and we speak about whatever they're creating. Really, my interest really comes from. I've always been a very curious person. I'm a Virgo, uh, and Aquarius ascendant, and I always have this curiosity to know not just what people think, but why they think like that, right? Like what made them, like what made you write a book? What made you think like, why do you have this thought process? How did you come up with this idea, or how did you discover this? Really, because it really gives um what I really wanted to be was a psychologist, and since I was a kid, and an actor or a psychologist, right? Which is interesting because,
I play one on
well,
TV.
yeah, but it's interesting because I feel like both professions are about insight. They're about, I think in order for you to be a good actor, you have to understand the human psyche. And in order to be a good therapist or psychiatrist or psychologist, you have to be able to play different roles,
Mhm, mhm.
to kind of adjust to. And I think as readers, we do the same. Not that we do, it could be therapeutic, but I want to make sure that people know, unless you're certified, then, we're not doing therapy, as in cognitive behavioral therapy
Right,
or
right, right.
psychiatry, etc. But
Mhm.
it is within the
But it's
realm of,
therapeutic.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
can
and
be.
it was and a lot of people treat us like a
Mhm.
therapist, and I think that's also, even if you don't mean it, right? I think it really weighs that responsibility has a lot of weight when
Ooh,
people,
yeah,
treat us
yeah,
as a therapist, because they treat us as a therapist even if you're not a therapist, and if you
yeah.
express that you're not a therapist, so.
I think you're really, like, bringing in a great point when we talk about self-care for readers because, therapists often have like, supervision. They have their people they go to, but with readers, there's nothing like that that's codified, right? So
Yeah,
readers also get emotional labor burnout, right? From like holding space, holding space, holding space as people are coming with a lot of heavy stuff. Yet we don't have anything that's official that helps us with, grounding that energy as well as discharging what may show up in sessions. So that's why we really need self care. Um, so for me, like when at the height of, like, my workaholism, I was working around 18 hours a week in doing readings, and I'm now 12 to 15, and, that is even less than a lot of therapists do, but the act of reading is so, so, so energetically intense, as I know you know. We're not sitting there listening, we are
yeah,
talking the whole time, and, it's always here, you're paying 100% attention, pulling in intuitive hits, psychic hits. You are looking at the reading, you're attuning to the person. It is like a computer with like 50 window screens open all at the same time. So, I think when people hear, oh, well, that's all you do, you just sit and talk to people, they don't understand how incredibly exhausting the work can be, right?
Yeah, because I mean, if you're a good reader, right? Which there's a ton of not so good readers, which you can get them like those like $5 pop on a corner shop, and then um and obviously everybody has their gig, so I'm not saying it's really, if you consider yourself a professional reader, right? And your book, your book deals a lot with that. It's
Mhm,
basically about how to be a good professional reader, right?
mhm,
And also, if you get like getting readings, it will tell you who's a good reader. Like
mhm.
if you read a book, it will tell you, okay, this is a good reader, right? But I feel like if you're a good reader, you are holding space. We are doing a lot of talking. I mean, we sometimes we do most of the talking in a reading, right?
Oh, yeah.
Whereas in the role of a therapist, you'll go and see you'll see a therapist, and then most of the time they're listening, right? Because that's how they're able to diagnose, right? And they were just some people are just good with just saying that, and we have clients like that too. But most of the time, we have a client that they just want to know if their intuition is right, or they just want to test whatever your abilities are. They
Yeah.
want to they just want to prove of confirmation
Right.
bias, right? And
Yeah.
we have to, as we're doing the reading and we're
Mhm.
doing intuitive hits, etc., we do have to have that assessment of what is this client here for, like what's the question behind the
Yeah,
question,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And
Exactly.
yeah, are they ready to hear this as well? So there's a lot
Mhm.
back and forth, so it can lead to mental exhaustion, because even if you're doing everything psychically, psychic abilities only work through our mind, right? So there's no way of I'm using my psychic brain, and we can tell where activity happens, right? But it all goes through the brain, so you don't get to choose, right? It's just you can kind of like like tell your, and that's kind of like certain practices that we can do to kind of tune it out and not be on all the time, but still
Mhm.
everything's a mental process, so it can lead to mental exhaustion, as you know.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And the thing that you mentioned that I wanted to like really point out was really about that idea of time. So if you're a therapist or even a coach, there's a protracted, like open-ended nature to the time, or maybe we're going to be over 10 sessions, 6 sessions, 8 sessions. Whereas when someone's coming in for a reading, they want it resolved within the hour. And they're not gonna tell you what the problem is, you gotta tell them.
Hmm.
So that is a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation, and sometimes in a way that I don't think is always best. Like, it would be nice if, like, let's do a couple of sessions and, like, let's meander and unpack this because the journey is beautiful, but that's not how tarot has been traditionally used, and that's fine. Like, I like more of a quick kinda in and out, like, I'm gonna give you the resources, you're on your and I tell them, I have got no skin in the game. I'm not trying to get you to come back every week.
Hmm.
I'm like, "Here you go, fly birdie, and I'll see you in 6 months." But it's a lot when it's over and over again. And actually, I say this, like, to be a pro reader is like to be a, like, triage nurse and in an emergency room, because people are often coming for readings when it's an emergency, isn't it? There's high
Hmm.
anxiety, high fear, and so we can't, this whole idea of like quiet quitting or like phoning it in, it's not possible. Like, you can't phone it in. So my question to you is this, Chris, like, you totally get the nature of what it means to be a reader. How do you take care of yourself? Like, what do you do? Like, how do you ground all of this?
So I think that's a great question, and I think it's a lot of self care in general has to do
Mhm,
with self awareness, right?
mhm.
So,
Oh, yeah.
so self awareness, which is a thing that I don't know, 95% of people don't really, because we're not taught to have that. We're taught to either undermine ourselves or
Yeah.
to over. what would be not over not over mind,
Over my
but over, over,
Yeah.
uh, like, to think more, right? So it's very difficult. It's a difficult task to be level headed, because it is a constant task. It's not something you just do once and
Right.
then, right? Because the more information we gather or we learn about ourselves or about the world, then we kind of like have to readjust consistently, right?
Mhm.
And in that sense, it always starts with like a self-assessment, right?
Mhm.
How do I feel today, right? It's like,
Mhm.
I personally, and that's just me, because I know, like, well, I'll give that example in a minute, but for me, I like to listen to my own thoughts, right? And I know that sounds kind of weird, or maybe it's like, oh, you're so into it, because I like listening what's in my head, right? We
Right.
have so much noise pollution, whether it's
Mhm.
music or distractions, etc.
Mhm.
And I like listening to what's in my head, right? Because
Mhm.
I might have had a bad dream last night that really fucked up my
Mhm.
energy, sorry, or messed up my energy, and
Mhm.
and then it really messed up with my energy throughout the day, because it might have been a very bad dream. It's like which we have, because of whatever, we just tapped
Mhm.
into something, we're unconscious,
Mhm.
so, or it might just be a fear coming up, something's
Mhm.
triggering, right? So I like seeing what I'm thinking. Then
Yeah.
I go into the process.
So I
Okay,
wanna
this,
just quickly,
yeah,
like,
go ahead,
just
go ahead.
for that, I think the word for that is, interoception, where you're, like, hearing your own, like, that mindfulness activity of, like, what is crossing across my brain right now? And can I create some spaciousness between the watcher who's watching and then, like, the ticker tape of your BS or whatever is going on.
Yeah.
So, I like that you mentioned that. What's the se oh, sorry, what was the second one? I wanted just
No,
to add that
so
'cause it was
no,
great.
but that's great, because also it has to do with the disidentifying with that, right? So
Mhm,
what I feel or what I think has nothing to do with, necessarily to do with reality, right? Like, I might be way off or whatever. So kind of like digging, and I don't have to identify with this anger that the stream caused, right? Because then I can look at it from a space of, well, that's whatever. I don't know why I had that dream, and maybe we'll clarify throughout the day, or in the past couple of weeks. But this dream is not going to define the rest of my day, right? Because if
mhm,
you're about to deal with people, and first reading has it's traumatic, then it's gonna be one of the things that you speak about in your book, which is triggers, right? It's gonna, what is
mhm,
triggering me? And if you don't listen to yourself daily, I mean, and I'm not saying do this in the morning. Some people need me, like a lot of Gemini people that I know, they love to listen to music every single morning. Shower with music, my best friend does. I was like, since he wakes up, right? So, and that's fine, but I like my quiet because I do that self-assessment or that um unloading or whatever, in the morning. And
mhm.
then I'm ready to take on the world, right? Like take on whatever task I
Yeah,
have. Then that period of not identifying with whatever it is that you're feeling, right? And then taking an honest, look
mhm,
at, like, from the basics of like having breakfast. Am I eating right? Did I drink too much last night? Did I, what did I do, right? Because energetically, you have to be in a level of like the bandwidth, right? Like you have to have to deal with people, especially if you have
mhm,
clients back to back, right? If you have a
mhm,
client and then maybe you can just push through it, right? But and also it has to do with the timing, as you were talking about timing. If your reading is a 5 minute reading or a 10 minute reading, or if you're going to be an hour with this client, and
yeah,
what are you going to talk
yeah,
about for that hour,
yeah,
and are you going to be able to be present, right? So I think
right,
presence is the other important aspect of the assessment.
mhm,
If my car trouble taking
mhm,
my mind away from being able to be
mhm.
present for this client, is my breakup have thinking, because then you have to
My
be
breakup,
able
oh.
to have, or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
I know.
Like have, it's like, what is it? It could be as simple as if you're if you're very anal, it's like, is my dishes undone gonna take away from my attention to this part, right? Because all these things are affecting you at different levels, but it might take away from that presence that you have, right? Because there's subtleties to when you're doing a reading. You might be there physically, but the people can tell when you're not paying attention,
Of
or
course.
you just use all, you
Yeah.
just use that random like
Right.
word to to whatever they say. It's just like, yeah, yeah, like
Right,
that's
right.
the
They're
joke.
like,
Like,
yeah.
that's the joke with the therapist that they're
Mm.
drawing a little thing, a little
Yeah,
poem.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
yeah, interesting.
You're
It's like
funny.
clever,
I love
so
the way you tackle your kind of self-assessment in a very Virgoan way, You're such a Virgo. I'm being a Gemini and a double Gemini. It's hard for me to do the same thing every day.
yeah.
So as a Gemini, we're known for mental quickness and quickness in general, and nervous burnout and breakdown can be a problem area for Geminis because we have so many things going, oh, 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 and then we forget to come back to ourselves and go, what the heck am I feeling right now? I need to listen to my body, get my brain back into my body. This is very typical of Geminis. Um, so I had like an idea, like we can do a couple and then we'll move to Instagram for the rest of our
Hmm.
life. Was that I have we can always use tarot to really ascertain our own level of self-care or what we may be needing. And I don't know if people think to really use tarot as the tool to help you not burn out, but it can. So I'm going to add, I have my document camera going, and I wanted to kind of do two things at once because I have cat tarot and I am loving it more than I thought I would, honestly. So I want to share it and then we're going to have some fun. So let me move us. Let's do this. All right. So
Oh, there
here
you go.
is, yes, welcome. Yes. So I have Cat Tarot, which I've been playing around with. It's so cute. And I have at random here just a little pile, just a few, as like ways for us to think about self-care and using the tarot as a way to navigate our own self-care needs. So this is not like hardcore or anything. It's very gentle. I just wanted to flip the card and have us talk about what we see and what we feel and what it's telling us. Is that cool?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's one of the things I wanted to talk to you about. So that's great because we're in the
Hey,
same. We're
hey,
probably we're probably gonna approach it in a different way, but it's
yeah.
definitely something I love.
Oh, this is great. All right, let me see if I can get in even a little closer to really get us to see it. Woohoo! There we go. So, all right. So the first card that I have here is Three of Wands. That's what Three of
So,
Wands looks
oh
like.
yeah. So you want to go first, or you
No,
want
no,
me to?
you go for it. Go for it.
So for me, if I were to, one of the things I wanted to bring up, but it's interesting that because again, it's kind of like we're in the same wavelength, is using the cards for to kind of prescribe, right? Which is a thing that not a lot of people. I mean, if you practice magic, etc., then you might use it like that. But a lot of people in tarot, they're not necessarily thinking about it like that.
Yeah.
So one of the things is going by the element of the card, right? So
Hmm.
I do a thing which is the four aces, which I can
Hmm.
pull this, and the ace will tell me what element I need to work with to kind of like
Ooh,
balance or
I love
bring
that.
bring that. So in this case, it would be the fire element, right? So how can you use fire, to for self care, right?
Mm.
Is it like aromatherapy candles, is it like
Ooh.
something very simple like that? Is it
Hmm.
I just need to write everything that's my boggling my mind and then
Hmm.
just
Hmm.
burn,
Hmm.
a little ritual about it. What would you
Hmm.
do? Well, how would you approach it?
Oh, I'm a very intuitive reader. So, for me, Three of Wands is often like opportunities, right? Like you have more coming. So, from the perspective of burnout, I was looking at this less as a prescriptive reading that you have, which
Okay.
I think is a wonderful way to do this. I'm going to offer like a way of like pulling back, right? So when you are a reader or when you are self-employed even, you have, let me see if I can grab this. Well, let me, there's going to always be more opportunities than you have time for. There's always going to be more ideas that are going to fire you up than you physically can even do or have the energy level. So when I was looking at this, I was really kind of looking at this cat in the back who's shunning this cat. And it's like sometimes we will be given so many opportunities, right? And those opportunities, we have to really discern when to be able to say no to some of them, even if they seem really juicy, in order to focus. And another thing, I was looking at as I was looking at the imagery, and I'm just
Hmm.
looking at the wallpaper here, and there's like all of these little elemental
Yeah.
pieces. So that's what I was like initially seeing, is really discerning the opportunity. Because I know for myself, like the Gemini in me, I want to say yes to everything that sounds interesting. Oh, that sounds good. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then I'm completely over
It's
like
like having your time filled up with stuff. It's like I don't want to see an empty. It's funny. This Joan Rivers would say like how her what's the worst thing she could see in her cat? It was an empty calendar. And she's a Gemini.
what
So
a
so
workaholic.
yeah, so it was a Gemini. So that's Gemini. It's like that
Yeah.
active. It's like I always have to be doing something because it's like a fear of being bored as well.
Yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah. There could be some attention deficit there.
yeah, yeah. But that too, yeah. But I love that. I love that interpretation. So you're coming at it from a more interpretation, observation based. What you're
Yeah.
getting from the card. Yeah, I love
But
that
I
too.
think they both are, you can use them for both. So it's
Oh
like,
yeah, I love it. Yeah.
okay, maybe the problem is like there's just too many invitations, but this is a fire element. So how do I use fire, right? The element to balance that. Maybe I need to do some flame meditation. Maybe I need to have a
Hmm.
fire. I need to relax. So I think we can do both. I think it's really great. This is so much fun. Thank you for doing
I
this with
love it.
me.
Of course.
All right. So the next one is judgment.
That's such a beautiful
This
card. Is
I
this
know,
this is
this
what? Is
this
this
one's so
US
pretty.
game?
This is who are this no, this is actually an imprint. This is Chronicle Books,
Oh, Chronicle books.
actually.
I don't
Yeah,
have this.
really high quality, especially for maybe a publisher that I would not associate traditionally with tarot. Very
Yeah.
nice, very well done, honestly. Um, yeah, so here's Judgment, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
great? So, uh, like what arises in you as we are looking at
If
this
I
card?
see, so in this is interesting because this one's not particularly associated with an element itself, right? Like as you
Mm,
would see the four suits. I mean, maybe it could be, but I can't think of it right now. But not like in the traditional four suits. But one of the things, if I associate judgment with some sort of awakening, right, with some sort of insight, it is like water. Like if I'm thinking about self care and like I'm feeling like I'm out of balance, right, or whatever. What recent insight have I received through
mm,
either it could be an insight of something that's triggering to you and you didn't know, it
mm,
could be an insight of some way of like you don't like working in a particular way, like
mhm,
which is one of the things that you speak about in the book as well in your book because sometimes people want us to work in a particular way and
mhm,
we work that way and
mhm.
we don't have to make ourselves fit into someone else's mold. It's like this is what I offer and I have to stand my ground and this is me, right? And then there is also that the other kitty right in the back is sitting
Yeah.
it's holding the ankh, so it's
Mhm.
like the key, right? So the well, I see it as the key, right? I love the ankh, the symbol of the
I
ankh.
know. I was like, you
Yeah.
wear the on. Yeah. Yeah.
um, so um, um, so there is that unlocking, right, of insight, right? I see the eye over there. It really catches my eye also, and the cat is like in between. It's like in between those two pyramids as well. So it's like
Yes.
the middle, like as Buddhists say, like the middle path, is the way,
Yeah.
right? Or
Oh,
Taoist.
yeah. Yeah,
So.
that's great. I didn't see that. That's really great. Yeah. I also like as this is such a great image. And we have the living cat here, and then we have the sarcophagus of the cat holding
Hmm.
the ankh and looking up, right? The next life for that cat. And so I feel like there's so much just in this image around self-care. Like number 1, like who are you doing this for? Like whose judgment are you worried about? Like,
Hmm.
because a lot of times we will carry those voices. Like, I know I do. I'm like, who's gonna be mad at me if I don't do this? I have to tell myself that because sometimes I'm like, I've got a drill sergeant inside of me, like, oh, do everything. So I think that's part of it. And also, what can we release? What can we let go of? What is really not critical and actually not in alignment with our core values and our core truths? Right? So to me, judgment is an opportunity to release yourself from the busy work that you feel you may be enslaved to,
Yeah.
right? So, yeah.
And also
Boy.
it's, I mean, so if I were to look at so it's card 20, so it's like 2 in numerology, right? So
Mhm.
it's balance, right? So it's balance, as you were saying.
Mhm.
So
Oh, yeah.
I always like to look at all those things, and it's like, so there's the 2 pyramids, there's the 20s, which reduces to 2. Um, and also, as you were saying, so what are you ready to, like, what can you release to be more freer, right? Which is part of that awakening too. I
Mhm.
I see it.
Yeah, I'm thinking about too, I'm looking at the feather, under the cat's paw and knowing
Hmm.
like that traditional story of like your heart will be weighed against a feather, once you die. That's very much in Egypt mythology. And
Yeah, it's like for Matt, the justice,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Justice feather too. Yeah, like your heart has to be lighter than a feather, right? It's gonna be heavier than the feather because otherwise you won't go into the afterlife or something like that, right?
yeah. I don't think I've teased out the self-care message on this one, on the feather piece, but my intuition is going, we're working on it right now. So I want to come back to that. But yeah, I think that's really that self-care of like you can get so mired in the busy work and all the details that you can then lose sight of your core values, your mission, what's driving your spirit. And so having those moments being like, am I in alignment here? And how do I maybe nudge myself back into alignment? And this is so specific too, because now with all the social media platforms, everything is chirping at us and beeping at
Mhm.
us. And it's just a lot of information. And we can get kind of lost in that, right?
And it's a lot of comparison
Mm. Oh, yeah.
um
Oh, yeah.
to other, to other people. It's like, oh, I need to be doing this to be successful. It's like
Oh, yeah.
acknowledging success and fulfillment looks very different to everybody, and it's
Yeah.
okay that your success and your fulfillment doesn't have anything to do with having fame or being or having
Yeah.
all this stuff out. It's like, what are you're only competing against yourself, right? So.
Yeah, but to be fair though, sometimes you do have to do that, like, to get a book deal, you definitely have to have
Ah, I
extra,
mean,
and I'm like,
yeah.
"Oh, come on," you know?
No, but I also feel with if it's what you want to do. So it's always, that's what I mean,
Mm,
like self-awareness and the self-assessment. If this is
mm,
what you're going through, then you go at it full force. But
right.
nothing other than yourself should be making you do these things. And that's my
Yeah.
approach to it.
Nothing but yourself should be making you to
Do
do
what
these
are
things. That's
yeah.
so good. That
Thank
is
you.
so good. You are so full of wisdom. Do you
Thank-
do you wanna do one more and then we'll head over to
yeah,
Instagram?
that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
alright, cool, cool, cool. So, the only thing is I did take the court cards, I made sure not to put them in just to keep it a little
Oh,
simpler.
okay.
But alright, but other than that, I did not do anything else. So, now we have the chariot. Isn't this just adorable? I mean, look at the wings on the chair. It's so cute. And what is
I
that? Oh, is that a wheel?
Yeah, it's like a one of those
Like
things,
those
I guess.
tops, yeah, under the chair. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
Ah, so what do you so like the chariot, right? And self-care, how do these speak to one another? What do you think?
So I think it's very interesting because you in the traditional chariot you see this person in a cart, right? But the cart really not moving when you look at it detail. There's not like there's no road that you can see. I mean, some decks have it, right? And then you
Yeah.
can interpret it differently. But it's
Mhm.
interesting because they decided to put it on a share. That share is not moving anywhere either. So it's a period of sitting, and I see the seven is always introspection as well in numerology. So it's
Mm.
kind of like you're sitting and pondering, right? Where are you gonna move? Is this cat thinking that he's gonna go get some food? Does he have to go use the litter box? So it's kind of like that, or is he comfortable where he's at, right? So those are real questions that we can think of ourselves. Is like, do I want to take that trip? Do I want to call this person because I know it's going to take me 2 hours on the phone to be with this person, not a client but like a friend or whatever, right? Or am I comfortable here and I'm ready to relax for a little bit?
Mm.
Am I in a comfortable place? And I think
Mm.
that thinking, do I need to play because there's that toy there at the bottom as well? Do I need time to play? And I think from a perspective of self-care, it's what is my body telling me I need right now? Because the sevens to me are always about some sort of internal. If you look at the other sevens throughout tarot, it's always about some internal, something to do with your own self. So
Mhm. Yeah, I love what you're saying there. Like this idea of like self-care is often just make the decision. Just make a decision and
hmm
don't just burn up like, "Oh, should I? Shouldn't I?" I don't know about you, but sometimes it's like I have a hard time making a decision about something or I'm worried about something. And then once
it's
I've
the
made it, I can
fatigue.
relax.
Yeah, you get decision fatigue.
Mm.
So
Oh,
you don't even have
yeah.
you don't even have to make a decision, and that's okay too. So I think it's like that, being okay with not having
Mm.
to make the decision.
There's a book I've been reading, it's like called the Gift of Wonder, but he talks about like, especially if you're an entrepreneur, how fatiguing it is to always be the decision maker, which is why
hmm
like Steve Jobs only wore the same outfit. It was like
Yeah,
one less
or
decision.
Obama had that where he would wear the same patterns of colors
Yeah,
because he didn't. It cuts the decision time because even those simple decisions, it might seem something very simple. It really adds a lot of. By the time you're out of your door, you're like you've had to make 100 decisions. Then of
yeah.
course what costs is just it's just a brain.
Mhm.
It's just one brain, right? So
Oh my god, I know. Like I look at my husband, he's got a regular job and I get jealous sometimes. I'm like, "Look, you just show up and they tell you what to do. You just do it and look at the you make money. You just did it
yeah.
and money comes to you." Like unlike me, and you and Madam Pimita, like we're always like grinding, right? Like what is like the next thing I have to do? How do I need to show up? It's a very, very different set of calculuses which
hmm
then you add to, uh, the exhaustion of reading, and you understand why this industry has very few people who stick it out long term. It's tough. It's tough stuff, so we've gotta take care of ourselves.
Yeah, especially if you, yeah, exactly. If you don't do the self care, you're not gonna be in it for a long time because it is exhausting.
Hey, so I have a question for you. Will you,
Yeah.
like, do you have to go at the hour? Do you, like, have a hard stop or anything?
Not really. I mean.
Okay. Just wanna make sure before we move over to Instagram, I wanna
Yeah.
be mindful of your time.
Yeah, yeah, that you're fine. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, let's come back to just the 2 of us here. Thank you. I like doing this split YouTube, Instagram because some people don't use both, and it's just nice.
Yeah.
And I love this because I get to show my cards more easily here
Yeah.
than on Instagram. But,
And then you post this on YouTube and on Facebook. Is that what it is?
it's not on Facebook because I killed my page, but,
Oh,
I just do it here and then, just go to
YouTube.
Instagram and stuff, but yeah,
But you
usually
do this on YouTube. You put it on YouTube.
mhm, yep, this is on
Yeah. Okay.
mhm. So, let's let's take off here, and then I'll meet you on Instagram, and we'll
Okay.
continue the conversation.
Okay. Sounds good.
Bye. See you in a minute.
Bye.
All right, guys, those of you who are live here on YouTube, if you want to come and continue the convo over on Instagram, it's at Jenna Matlin on Instagram. If you do not have Instagram as an app, you still can come hang out through your web browser. You just want to put in the URL instagram.com/Jenna Matlin. I will show up live and you can watch that way. So, either way, I hope you can make it. And for those of you that are tuning in later, I highly encourage you for the month of December, really using a tarot card and working your self care program. Super important before January hits. Okay. So, otherwise, I am off for now and I wish you all the very best. Have a great week. Bye, everyone.